Have you ever felt like you're way too sensitive to this world, yet you're constantly craving more of it? Like, one part of you just wants to chill and be in a quiet place, and then there's another part of you that's like, let's start this new project. Let's sell everything and get a van and live in it. If this sounds like you might be what psychologists call a highly sensitive person who is high sensation seeking. It's a rare but fascinating combination that feels like you're living with two personalities in one body. Today we're going to dive into what exactly this means, why it's not exactly a contradiction, and how to embrace the beautiful chaos that is being both. So stay tuned. A highly sensitive person is someone who takes in like a lot of information. Your brain is just wired to notice things more and to feel things more. You might get overwhelmed more easily because of this, but people who are highly sensitive are also typically more creative, they're emotionally intelligent, and in tune with other people's emotions. You may need more downtime than others, but that's not because you're fragile, you're just wired differently. Your nervous system is working overtime. I've created a video on highly sensitive people and how music impacts them if you want to check that out in my description. And this isn't just some pop psychology. This is research based on the work of Elaine Aron, and I've linked her stuff in my description as well if you want to check that out. So layer on top of highly sensitive people this trait of high sensation seeking. This part craves intensity and new experiences. It's like living with one foot on the gas, one foot on the brake. One day you're just chilling and you're like, this is amazing, but then there's a part of your brain that's like, let's look for Airbnbs, let's go on a trip right now. I'm gonna go start 5 projects. So let's talk a little bit about this inner conflict and how it might present itself, because living with this mix might feel confusing and it might feel exhausting. It could feel like an emotional roller coaster. You could be at an event or a concert and you're vibing and you're enjoying it, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm overstimulated. I need to leave right now. And people might tell you, you're so intense or you're so chill, just depending on the kind of day you're having. That inner conflict isn't a flaw, it's a clue into how your nervous system is working and that you're wired for a life that needs to be both intentional and expansive. So next, let's talk a little bit about coping with these two very different sides. The first thing that's really important in managing these traits is radical self-awareness. Pay attention to your patterns. What really energizes you? What drains you? When do you start feeling drained? What are your cues or your signs? Some people, they might start feeling more irritable, or they might just be exhausted. Maybe your muscles start getting tense, or your body feels more tense than usual, or you start snapping at people. Another important way of coping with this is intentionally scheduling downtime. Not as a reward, not as something that maybe I'll get to this week. Put it in your calendar. Literally schedule downtime. When you're resting, literally imagine that you're charging yourself up for the next exciting, stimulating activity. You don't want to wait until you're totally burnt out and exhausted to schedule downtime. Do it throughout the week. Do it a little bit each day if you can. Next, find outlets that satisfy the high sensation seeking part of you, the part of you that wants novel experiences. Traveling, art, creative projects, going new places, trying new food, but make sure you're doing it without totally overwhelming yourself or blowing up your life. If you're finding this in small ways, like trying a new restaurant, you're not gonna crave the huge, bigger way that you're like, I'm gonna quit my job and go across the country, which is fine if you're planning for it. But you wanna do it intentionally. Make sure it's something that you really want and that will work in your life, not just because you're having this craving. Have some places on standby that you wanna check out when you start feeling like you need some stimulation, like a new coffee shop you've been wanting to try or a new park. I've created a cute little free PDF in the description if you wanna check that out, of a bunch of activities that can satisfy both of these parts. Another important way of coping with this is boundaries. Not just boundaries in relationship, boundaries for yourself and your nervous system. Your energy is precious. Your energy is gold, so treat it like it. This might look like saying no when someone invites you when you know that you've been doing a lot the past few days, or it could look like putting a timer on a creative project so you're not staying up all night working on it and you get sleep so you feel rejuvenated the next day. By the way, sleep is super important for highly sensitive people. It's important for everyone, but especially highly sensitive people, as the research shows, because it affects you being overstimulated more. So make sure you're getting sleep. Next, let's talk a little bit about some misunderstandings and myths. To be clear, everyone has days where they feel more energized and everyone has days where they feel more tired. But for HSPs with high sensation seeking, this is to the extreme. So most people's energy is like the ocean. There's some rough days, there's some peaceful, calm days, but for the most part, it's pretty predictable. For HSP high sensation seekers, this is like living in a hurricane zone. One day, you're in a peaceful, calm ocean, and the next way, this huge wave comes and a huge storm comes and you're totally overstimulated. You're not broken, you're just living in a different climate, and you can learn to look for the cues of the huge wave, like does the air temperature change, or are the waves starting to get a little more rough right now? And this is why radical self-awareness is so important. If you're relating to anything I'm saying, you might have grown up and lived your life feeling misunderstood. Even by yourself, like, what is happening with me? Why do I feel so overwhelmed right now? Why do I also want to go bungee jump off a bridge? People might call you dramatic or flaky or inconsistent, when in reality, your nervous system is just constantly adjusting to the stimulation of the outside world and being a human. Obviously, this is not an excuse to act a certain way towards people. That's why it's so important to be aware of your patterns. And I'm just gonna keep saying that. Radical self-awareness, understand your cues, understand your triggers and your patterns when you start to get overstimulated. Society loves neat categories like you are a sensitive person, you are an adventurous person, when you can be multifaceted, you can be all of those things. And it might seem like a contradiction, but it's really not. And here's why. We assume that sensitivity means avoiding stimulation and sensation seeking means chasing it. But they're two completely different parts of our brain. Sensitivity is how much stimulation you're taking in, and sensation seeking is how much your brain is craving it. So imagine a stereo with the volume turned all the way up. That's your sensitivity. Now imagine you love music and you always want to be finding new music and listening to music. That's your sensation seeking. But just because the music is loud doesn't mean you don't love music. So no, it's not really a contradiction. It might just feel that way because we've been taught we can only be one thing instead of being multidimensional beings. When you stop trying to fix and start working with your wiring, amazing things can happen. And you can start cultivating a life that feels really enriching and rewarding for you. If you're sitting here thinking, this is literally me, I have a whole bunch of resources for you in the description. You can also check out the Highly Sensitive Person directory on the Highly Sensitive Person website. It lists therapists that specialize in this. I also love working with highly sensitive people, so just saying, check out my website description. Also, just a little side note, I've created a community for people who relate to any highly sensitive traits or just want somewhere that feels refreshing and they're sick of the hustle culture and all that stuff. Somewhere that feels real and safe and comforting, and I've linked to the Vibe and Thrive Circle in my description below, so join if you're interested, and I look forward to seeing you there. Please like, share, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I post videos on Fridays about creative arts, music therapy, psychology, counseling, all that fun stuff, and I hope to see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.